Welcome to The Big Break Show, a podcast where we discuss short-term rentals, entrepreneurship, life, mindset, and everything in between. Here are your hosts, Rafa Loza and Jesse Vasquez.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of The Big Break Show. We are in episode number, what, Mr. Jesse Vasquez? What episode is this, bro?
22. Can you believe we're at episode 22?
I stole that from you.
You know what? Today's a special episode, the double deuces, because we have on Kierra Castle, who is killing it in the short-term rental space. Not only that, but she's also killing it in the coaching space, teaching people how to level up in the short-term rental world. So I'm excited to have her on because we actually deep dive into multiple different things today, Rafa. We talked about ownership. We talk about, getting your first unit to scaling. I mean, man, she's doing a lot of cool stuff right now.
I've known Kierra for a while. I love her. She has such a great personality. She has such a giving spirit. She's always wanting to help people. And I was really excited that she decided to come on because, she's awesome. Her coaching program is great. I've learned a couple things from her. And again, she's just a really, really good person. So I hope you guys enjoy the show because, trust me, you guys are going to enjoy the show. It's not I hope. You guys are going to really, this is one of these that you're going to be like, man, this was really good. And you'll probably go back and rewatch it. And you're probably going to reach out to her because her coaching program is great. She's got it everything broken down for any true beginner on how to get bookings, how to get booked, how to get started, everything. So hopefully you guys enjoy this. Without further ado, here is Miss Kierra Castle.
What's up, guys? I am super excited today because we have Kierra Castle who is with us. And Kierra and I actually met on Instagram before we even met on Clubhouse. And I actually was just talking to you about this a second ago. Kierra and I connected on Instagram in September of 2020. I started following her and she gave me a shout out and was like, hey, thanks for following. And now here we are. What is it? 2.5 years later? 2 years
That's
later?
Crazy.
COVID. And Kierra's... I know, isn't it nuts? So here we are today talking to you, and I'm super pumped because you've grown so fast, Kierra, over the last couple of years, and I'm excited about what you have going on. I think you're doing a lot of cool stuff in the coaching world, in the arbitrage and in ownership world. So yeah, I want to dive into what you have going on. So tell us a little bit about yourself and who you are, where you were born and raised, and let's jump into the short-term rental space.
Oh, well, first off, thank y'all for even inviting me on. It's an honor to be invited onto anyone's podcast. So the fact that you guys thought about me, thank you. But a little bit about me. You know what? I was born in Austin. All my family's still there, but I was raised here in Houston because my mom just saw better opportunities for our family. So I moved here when I was 3. So Houston's home, okay? H-Town all the way. UH, go Cougs, for anyone's watching. But nonetheless, I grew up in Houston. We moved a lot. We weren't rich growing up. We were actually very poor, but it's okay. My mom definitely made sure she put us in the best schools. And I feel like right now it's my duty and job to repay her too. So I guess I'm jumping really far, but she's actually our cleaner now for our Airbnb business. So she loves cleaning, and we're like, all right, do you want to clean the unit? So that's kind of how we help her and stuff. But yeah, started from the bottom. Now we're here, literally. So
Love it.
That is so cool. So you grew up, your family's in Austin. You never left, except you went over to you were raised in Houston, right? Is that what you just said?
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. So I was raised in Houston. I think we moved when I was 3 or 4, and then I've been here ever since. Well, I moved to Virginia when my husband was in the military, and then we moved back to Houston, and we actually started Airbnb in Virginia, which I loved, and I miss it.
Really?
I miss it.
Well, you can always get another space over there.
It's expensive now, but it's worth it. It is worth it out there.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how did you get involved in short-term rentals? How you said that you came, you all of it, Rafa and I both, we had a lot of adversity growing up. So were you taught about real estate investing? How did that entrepreneurial spirit come out in you? How did that all come about?
Yeah, so I feel like it came out because growing up, like I said, I didn't have a lot. So I had to get really creative with a lot of things. I know people always say they were always entrepreneurs and they sold this and that on the bus going home, but that was really me. Did y'all have those little stringies that they were 4 strings and you could weave them into each other and they create those long chains, those rubber things?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
exactly what you're
So
talking about.
I used to make money like that off the bus, like starting it for people because I was like the only person who knew how to start them. I had like a little clothing business when I was little. I would always just try to sell stuff and figure out how to make money because I always told myself, my mom would always be like, I don't want y'all to grow up. I don't want y'all to be like me. Like I want y'all to be better than me. So like I was always kind of looking for like, all right, what's the next opportunity? What do I need to do now? And so for Airbnb, I was in Forex at the time. Well, I was in a program who taught us Forex, and I met a girl. She did Airbnb. She was showing her numbers. It was the year that the Super Bowl was in Atlanta, I think 18. And she had made from January to March, I think like $40,000 or $60,000 in 3 months. I'm like, girl, teach me
Wow.
what you're
Wow.
doing. And I was still in college at the moment. I was in an internship that I hated. And she literally guided me through. I messaged her on Instagram and kind of was like, hey, can you help me with this real quick? And she would like really just help me. And she helped me in the beginning. And I always call her the original Airbnb queen because she really is. But that's how I got into it. I was like, girl, teach me, like, let's make the money. So that's kind of how we got here, sort of.
Yeah, that's awesome. Sorry, Ralph, I was going to go into so Forex. Like, I always get these random messages on my Instagram. It's like Forex. Like, what the heck even is that? And we'll get into the like, what the hell is that? I get
It's
so many
basically
spam messages from that. Like, it's crazy.
the thing is with Forex, it's great if you have a good mentor to teach you how to do it. It's just like the stock market. The only difference is you can literally lose all your money. Like for the stock market, you could lose your money if you pull out early. Like you could stay in it and hope the company like does well. But with Forex, no. Like if if it drops below your limit, you just lose the money forever. But in the market, you have to wait until a company goes bankrupt to completely lose your money. So
It's
Forex is
almost
a
like
lot.
options trading, Jesse.
It's
Oh yeah,
literally the same thing.
I
Well,
get so
not
many
literally,
spam
but it's like,
messages. It's insane.
yeah.
It's funny. I'm
I can't
surprised you don't know
handle it.
what that is, Jesse. You're all over the stock market, bro.
I know. I don't, that's why I'm trying to figure it out. Thank you, Kira. I appreciate that. I still don't understand it, but
Don't even bother getting into it, bro. It's yeah. Let's just stick to short term rentals.
I know. All right, take it easy, Rafa. I just wanted to get some Forex information in there. So yeah, okay. So you were an entrepreneur as a kid. You were selling the little key rings because I know exactly what you're talking about. How old are you? Probably in your late 20s,
Mid-20s.
mid 20s. Okay, see, you're even further along than I even thought, which is fantastic. Can you imagine when you're like 10 years from now, Kira, you're gonna be freaking killing
Man,
it, and you're killing it already.
oh, I ain't thought about 10 years. I ain't even thought about 5 years, but whew, you're right.
Yeah, wait
Wow.
till you start getting grays like this. Those of you can't see my hair right now is getting crazy.
You're like,
Nobody wants to aspire to get grays like Jesse.
Hey, grays are cool, guys. Don't tell it. You know what? Even women are dyeing their hair gray. Okay, so
yeah, they are. It's a trend. It's a trend.
it is a trend. So okay, so you had the entrepreneurship. You had that. You were making things. You're not just like everybody else saying they're entrepreneurs. You actually were an entrepreneur. So
Mhm.
what? It was that the Forex girl, the ultimate, or what'd you see? What'd you call her?
She's like the queen of Airbnb. Like I don't care what no one says. Like she's a queen.
So she got you. You saw the numbers, and then that was it. So what was the first? What was your first insight on like? Okay, now I'm gonna try to get started. So what did you do? Did you like YouTube stuff? How did you learn?
Man, let me tell you. So, I graduated with my degree in accounting. And the reason I chose accounting is because, again, growing up, I didn't have a lot. So, I wanted something that was stable. And what do people say? They're always like, oh, well, when you're an accountant, you always have a job, right? So, I was like, all right, I want to make sure I always have something to go back on no matter what. And so, I became an accountant. But the thing is, it was my senior year that I started Airbnb, senior year of college. For the first 3 months of that second semester, I was doing an internship with a big four accounting firm. I did not like it. I was not treated like, yeah, that those stories you hear about Black women and how they're treated in corporate, that was me. So what happened was when I went to Virginia, because after the internship, I was in all online classes my last semester because I had the internship. I couldn't go in person. So I moved to Virginia with my husband before graduation and I was bored. I didn't have anything to do. So I learned how to coupon. I became an extreme couponer, which actually helped when we started our Airbnb business. And And then what happened was I did contact her. She couldn't contact me too much because she was still really busy. So we did have to figure out a lot on our own. But I'm very much of a go-getter. When I want to do something, I'll do it. So I did the calls. I called the apartments, and we got a yes. And it's so funny, when we did get our first yes from an apartment complex telling us we could do Airbnb there, like they told us yes, like in person. And my husband's like, all right, we'll do it. I'm like, wait, can we like go in the conference room and talk about this? And then I'm like, are you sure you want to do this? Like, it was an idea I came up with. Are you sure? He's like, why not? The numbers make sense. And my husband's a very logical person. So he said yes. I'm like, okay, I guess we're doing this. And so, yeah, I started, we made a lot of money when we first started with it was like a 1 bed, 1 bath, 500 or 600 square foot apartment. And best in the city. We were on the first page. I just feel like, I believe in God. So I feel like God just downloaded a lot of knowledge that I feel like I should have learned from someone, but I feel like it was just knowledge that was given to me, and it came to me. Airbnb really, it just came to me. And then I did another internship during the summer. I was making more on Airbnb than I was in my internship. And there's a joke in accounting that like interns make more than like the full-time employees because we can charge overtime, and there's a lot of overtime. So I think it was a no-brainer for me. And I tried accounting again for like a third and fourth time, and God was like, Kierra, just stop trying. Like, you need to do Airbnb. So that was the taste I got. It was good. It tasted really good.
It's funny. I have a really close friend of mine who's she does accounting, and when I first started, I was like, oh, I'm gonna try this new thing, Airbnb short-term rentals, and she's like, I don't know what you're doing. Always like kind of like doubting it and doubting it, and I'm like, I've always been the one that tries all the crazy ideas, and I'm like, well, do you want to be like my bookkeeper? You want to be my accountant? And I tell the story all the time because it's funny. We're great friends, and she'd be like, I don't know, you're always taking these crazy risks. And then once she became my actual bookkeeper, my accountant, she started seeing the numbers, and now she does all my books, and she has her own Airbnb short-term rentals as well. So it's kind of funny. Yeah. Same story, I guess, kind of similar.
Us accountants, we don't like taking risks. That's why that's why we chose a profession. So I get her sentiments. I do.
Yeah, that makes sense. So walk us through your first yes, because I know that's a question that you probably hear. Rafa's big in the arbitrage world. I got a couple arbitrage properties. So what is it that helped you and you teach this? This is something that you educate people on how to do. Mm-hmm. So what's that like? What's that works for you? Because everybody kind of have something similar when it comes to arbitrage. Like Rafa might do one thing, I say another thing, you might do something completely different. So what is your kind of like pitch, or how did you guys land your first deal?
So for us, the girl who I was talking to, she told me to just tell them that, like, since my husband's in the military, we would be living there, but we wouldn't be living there. But we would still put it on Airbnb. So they knew about Airbnb. So what happened was, I think I called like a lot of apartments, and in Virginia, we were in Norfolk. Norfolk doesn't have a lot of apartments. Anyone who's watching and they're from Norfolk, they know it's like, it's this many apartments. So we called everyone. We got a lot of yeses, but for this one specific complex, it was just something about it that stood out. Like the floors were concrete. The ceilings were like 20 feet. So it worked. So basically we just told them our business plan. We're like, yeah, by the way, we're going to be on Airbnb. I hope you're okay with that. And it was like, yeah, that's fine. Whatever. And I was like, oh, okay. But we did do it the wrong way when we first started because we didn't have it in writing that we could do Airbnb. I begged them from the day they told us yes to get it in writing, but they never gave it to us in writing we could do it. So what happened was one day we walked in, like I think 7-8 months later, we walked in, completely new staff, didn't know anyone. First thing they told us, yeah, I gotta go. So that's when I learned, like, all right, next time, like my learning lesson here, don't be upset that someone kicked you out. Just learn that next time you need to have it in writing, or you need to have it in your lease that you can do Airbnb.
I love that you brought that up because it's one of the things I tell everybody, because there's a lot of people out there who are doing it, and they do it either like undercover or like below the radar until they actually get caught. Like that happened to me actually several times in my first building. I want to say about a year and a half into my first couple leases from the first one that I got in that building. I had like 22 in that building, but they changed the staff on me. And the new company came in and they're like, hey, you guys can't do this. You guys got to go. And I was like, nope, let's pull the leases really fast. And we pulled the leases. And once they saw the leases, they're like, well, they were open to it right away because, well, they didn't have a choice, number one. And number two, I had to educate them on what it is that we were doing. And so when I sat them and I educated them, they were cool with it. And then So listen to this. On top of that, 6 months later, they changed them again to a different management company. And that's other than new management company, same thing. We don't allow that here. That's not how we operate. And I'm like, sorry, here's the documents, but let me tell you what I do. And so I convinced them. And then we were there for 3.5 years and they were awesome. They loved us. We got along great. They loved the way we had our unit set up. So I'm glad you brought that up because a lot of people don't do that. And you learn the hard way, right?
I
You learn the
did.
hard way.
I
You had
did.
to close up shop and finally understand that, hey, I got to get this in writing going forward.
But I think God really was taking care of me because my husband was on deployment when this happened too. So I was like by myself in a city where I knew no one. So luckily I was able to use his deployment letter to get out the lease, but most people don't have that option. So I
Oh
got
yeah.
lucky, and that's only also because his name was on the lease. Both of our names were on the lease. So had he not been on the lease, I don't know what I would have done. Like I really don't know, but I really do believe in like divine timing and like all that. I think it happened the way it was supposed to, and it was hard. I moved it by myself. It was hard, but I had to do it. I had to do it.
Yeah.
One of those hard life learning lessons.
Yep. Yeah, I totally agree. Well, that also probably shifted your mindset. So when you left, let's talk about that now. So you left Norfolk, Virginia, and then you went back to Houston. So
Mhm.
you left your short-term rental, and then what happened when you got back? And what year was that?
Let me see. So, okay, so this also happened right before COVID. Like we got kicked out, right? And we didn't get kicked out. They gave us the option to stay. We just had to stop Airbnb. But I
I
ended
see.
up ending the lease. But the thing is, it happened 2 or 3 months before COVID. But my husband was on deployment. He was supposed to get back in January, February. He didn't get back till July. So I wasn't going to start another Airbnb unless he was there because it was a lot. So I had to wait. I think, hold on, we got kicked out 2020. Let's see, January 2020. And then he was on deployment until July 2020. We moved to Houston in November 2020. And then 2021, January 2021, we started our search again after we got settled in Houston. In February, we started over again. We started from scratch and we built it up in Houston. And now we're
Yeah.
here and I love it. I love it.
So what are you guys currently doing now? Like, the same, was it the same pitch that you used? Was it a different pitch? Like how did that come about?
It's honestly the same pitch. So we still let people know, like, hey, this is what we do. We've done it before. I think the fact that we have done it before makes it really easy for us to pitch because a lot of my clients, I teach them when you're pitching to landlords, you have to be super specific. Like, who are you hosting? Don't say traveling. Well, I don't hate me for this. I'll explain why. But I always tell them, don't just say traveling nurses and business professionals because you have to be careful. You don't know what they need. You've never hosted those kind of people before. So think about your profession and then put that, like use your profession and tell them that's who you're going to host and then actually market to those type of people. But for me, I feel like it's easy for us to pitch because we do have like units, we have the history. So we can just walk in and say we're doing Airbnb. But right now what we're doing is although we have our arbitrage units, we have 9, we're also doing ownership as well. So we bought a house here in Houston, is
Very
getting
cool.
renovated. I hope it's done in the next couple of weeks.
Congrats.
But
Awesome.
thank you. I know, but we realize ownership is really the key. Like we pay like $10,000 to $15,000 a month on rent to our landlords, and we're like that could have been our equity. So we learned the hard way. So now we're like our goal is to like build up on the buyer side, and with all the regulations that are happening in every city, I know Houston's next very soon. So I know that it's the key is ownership. You need to own your property.
Yeah. You brought something up right now that I want to talk about. So, as you know, I've part of my business has been in the healthcare industry. So,
Mhm.
traveling nurses is really really big for me. Not just traveling nurses, but just corporate kind of housing. And I think that a lot of coaches will teach people to talk about, hosting travel medical professionals, and they don't actually really ever do that.
Nope.
And they'll go in and pitch, say, Rafa's a landlord. I'm going to go in and say, hey, Rafa, I'm going to be hosting travel nurses. And you're going to be like, oh, cool. It sounds like a medical professional. And all of a sudden now I got short-term rental people in there in and out. You can't do
Exactly.
that.
You can't
You
do
have to
that.
be, yeah, you have to be extremely transparent with the landlords, especially like Rafa's been able to grow. I don't even know how many units off of 1 or 2 landlords, 3, 4, 5 landlords that he created a relationship with.
Yep.
And if you're going in there like BSing about what you're actually going to do, there's no way they're going to
The
continue to give you
trust is it
business.
won't be there.
Yeah,
You
it won't be
know,
there.
one of every time I get this question, it's like, what do you tell people? Well, I don't go in and I say Airbnb right away, right off the bat, unless they ask me. But it always comes out, and you always have to explain it at some point, one point or another, whether it's in the beginning or whether it's in the middle of you actually doing it. But if you start from the right way from the very get go, I tell them you talk about the customer you're going to house, nothing else, right? It doesn't matter. And then once you do that, you got to wait for their concern. And then you got to find out, hey, what is it they're actually worried about, right? Because you can't go in there, like Jesse said, everybody, the shiny object is short-term rentals. And the way to get in is business travelers, medical professionals, and corporate housing. And then they see kids roll up with a keg or a cooler or a case of beer, and then like, dude, now you just lied. Yeah, you lied now. And now at this point, you've already put a sour taste in the property manager or the owner's house, right? I have, what is it now? 53 units now. And it's like,
congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. And so it's like 32 of them are with one guy, right?
Crazy. How
can I have that many with one person? Because I'm 100% transparent with what I do with him. He knows everything that I do. Even though I want to say 90% of my people are business travelers. And I want to say, well, not 90%. I mean, I don't know off the top of my head, but you guys get the point here. And then another percentage is medical professionals, right? Because I have some of the biggest hospitals, but I also get all kinds of random people in between there, all kinds, right?
Yeah.
And I know that no matter how good I am and how good my systems are in place, I'm still going to have a bad guess from time to time. The difference that sets me apart is the fact that I know how to stop any issues really, really fast. So I don't go in there pitching and giving some nonsense, revolutionary idea or some beautiful pitch about promises and heaven and everything else. I just tell them, hey, this is what I'm doing with your place. I'm going to take care of it this much. And this is what we're going to do, right? Similar with you. You go in and you're fully transparent about what you're doing. And that's what makes a world of difference. Not to mention, when we're already operating, it does make it easier for us because like I have a website, I can just send on my website. It kind of does the pitching for me, right? So it's cool. I'm glad that you keep it. You're still doing everything the way you do it. And obviously it seems to be working. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, I got you. I just want to say for everybody listening now, just be transparent or watching this. Like if you're going to be pitching to a landlord or whatever it is, like just be honest and truthful. Don't say you're going to have a medical contract if you don't actually have contracts in place.
Yeah.
Do what you say you're going to do. Be ethical. I mean, look at Rafa right now. It has 30 something units from one dude, like just by himself. So if you're able to be transparent with the landlord, you'll get more units. The landlords mostly have more than one property, and these investors continue to buy more properties. So, if you do well with that one, you're going to get another one. You just got to be patient and do what you say you're going to do.
Always. You know what I mean? That's literally how we grew too. Every time, and I thought we got lucky. I really did. I was like, because our landlord or the property manager to our landlord, the owner, was like, "Hey, we have these units coming up. You want to take a look at them, see if y'all want them?" We're like, "Sure." But at first, I thought we were getting lucky. But for my clients, when I saw that's how they were growing too, and their landlords were doing the same thing, I'm like, "Oh, well, that's the key. The key is knowing having a key literally inside to someone who has that, all the doors, so you can create that relationship." I love it. Business is great.
I know you're kicking ass right now. So I want to dive into this real quick because we haven't really talked about this very much. So how did you get a hold of those landlords? How did you get a hold of those investors? Like, what did you do to get in front of them? Was it just calling, or did you go to like meetups, or, how did you, if somebody new is listening to this and they want to get started in this short-term rental, arbitrage space, what would be one of the best ways that you would tell them, to get involved or to connect with these people?
I feel like and this is how we find our units and how everyone around us finds them, but really just like HAR and Zillow. Well, HAR, if you're in Texas, if you don't know what HAR is, it's like the site that, it's like the MLS, but for Texas, and it's so amazing. I know when I was little, my mom used to use it when we were moving from like house to house, and it's amazing. But we just really, the key is finding a good zip code that works, which is kind of like how I figured out how to just always stay profitable on Airbnb and not have slow months. Because we only use Airbnb and we've only ever used it. But the key is finding a good zip code. And once you find that good zip code, searching only in that zip code. Because it's like, say, for example, you found out you had to go to a party, but you didn't know what you have to wear. Like, you don't am I supposed to wear, red? Am I supposed to wear a dress? Yada, yada. But if the invitation says, "Oh, wear a red dress only," then it's easy because when you go into the store, you're only looking for red dresses, right? Versus being like, "Oh, I'm overwhelmed. I don't know what to wear." It's just like that for short-term rentals and arbitrage. It's really saying, all right, what zip codes do I need to be looking at? What kind of houses do I need to be looking for? Because it makes the process so much easier because everyone's overwhelmed in the beginning. It's too many options. So.
Yeah.
I love that.
I always hear one of the first questions is, where do I go? What city do I go to,
Car,
or should I start in
Zillow,
my backyard?
Apartments.com is my favorite. You want to know the hack? The hack is going to those sites and then, well, like a site like Apartments.com, once you figure out your zip code, going to that site and going to the last pages because the first properties are the ones that pay for advertising. And usually those are the big corporations and they're going to ask you for this business thing and that business credit and this, and that. But when you go to the last page on Apartments.com, it's the people who aren't paying that much for advertising. So they're more likely to say yes.
That's gold right there. I hope really everybody paid attention to that because it's so true. It's so true. Yeah,
It
that's
works.
really good.
It works. For every
Mhm.
site, it's not just apartments.com, like all of them. It's crazy.
All the mom and pop owners, they don't want to spend a lot of money on advertisements, so
Nope.
it's just they'll follow the end of the page, and you're the lucky one
Mhm.
who comes in and swoops in. That's
Mhm.
that's a really good one, Kierra. Yeah, thanks for sharing that.
So start from the back. Start from page 20.
No, no,
Before you
literally,
have.
that's what I tell my clients to do. I'm like, all right, like my clients know, like whenever we're looking, I'm like, they go straight to the last page. I don't even have to tell them. Like it's an unspoken thing. So yeah.
Kierra, you grew from February 2021, you said, right, when you started over?
Yep.
Okay.
2021. What
How
year is it?
how hard was it? Because I know you have a ton. Yeah, I know it's been what, a year. You're killing it. I mean, it's been 1 year, right? And you have a bunch of units already. How hard was it to scale to add your processes and systems and everything in place for you? Like, how did that come about? What did you like? What'd you do there? It's basically what I'm asking.
Okay. I hate to be that person, but I wasn't hard because again, I feel like I just had this knowledge that I feel like I should have been taught and I just knew. So when we had our unit in Virginia, we had everything automated. Like for this one unit we had, everything was automated. So for Texas, when we came to Texas, I was able to just implement it. And I actually use Airbnb's messaging system. So we're able to just like use Airbnb to like message all the guests. But I think the hardest thing was the towels and the sheets. We weren't ready for that because at our other unit in Virginia, we had two extra sheets and towel sets or two, yeah, for per guest in the closet, but we can't really do that when you have so many units unless you're spending a lot of money, and then that's just more, it's just a lot. So I think that's the only thing that we struggled with. But we have a system now. My husband and I, believe it or not, we still wash our laundry. Like we still do. So my mom, since she's our cleaner, before she cleans the unit, she just stops by our apartment, picks up everything, and she goes about her way. And we have a closet that's dedicated to Airbnb. We fold everything and put it up in the closet so we can just grab and go. But that was hard. I ain't gonna lie. That's probably like the thing I'm like, whew, that was hard. So towels and sheets, hard.
It's always difficult when you're trying to implement something like that. Yeah, towels and sheets are a pain. Like, I now have a linen company because I don't want to deal with it. It's such a pain.
I know, but we're the only reason we're taking over it right now is because my mom like I've given my mom leads as well. So she has a lot of clients that she cleans for in Houston. So A, to make sure she's able to get in and out of our units because we have turnovers all the time, like back to backs. We do it for that reason, but B, also because with the investment property we are doing, it's expensive. It's not cheap. So that's how we save money is by doing the laundry. And sometimes you just gotta do what you gotta do, and we're okay with that.
Yeah. So you guys are really involved in the day-to-day operational aspects of like your business.
Yeah, in that sense, we do have an intern who she's still our runner, but she basically, if my mom needs anything, like if a maid's closet's missing something, she has a company card and she'll go buy whatever is needed and she'll drop it off at the units before the guests arrive, and she writes our handwritten letters and all that. But other than that, like, yeah, we're in it, and we have VAs too, so that helps.
Yeah. So how did you find an intern? Like, what is it like? Did you just bring somebody on to because essentially interns like typically aren't paid, right? Like that's not how it usually goes. Or if they are paid, it's it's a, like a
No, no,
low
no.
wage.
No, literally. So our intern, she found me. I think she saw one of my podcast interviews online, and she was like, "Yeah, I'm taking the risk to reach out and see if I could be your intern because I want to learn." I was like, "Girl, come on!" So we interviewed her, and at first she didn't want to get paid for the job. I was like, "Girl, I'm not paying you." So
Yeah.
we pay her. But she's amazing. So the goal is to get her into her first unit so that she can start her Airbnb business and build up. But she is amazing. I love her.
Yeah. Yeah. And for a lot of people listening too, as you grow, you have that option to be able to do that, to bring somebody on to
Mhm.
learn. Because I mean,
Mhm.
these classes and things like that, they're expensive. They're not cheap. So if everybody listening right now, if you want to get involved with this, reach out to somebody that is doing fairly well in the space, because they can always use the help. I can promise you that. But not only that, you're going to have firsthand experience on how to do things. And I think that's the most important. That's worth more than money, is really learning how to do something. And learning it next to somebody like Kierra or Rafa or myself, like really understanding it. Like
Oh
for
yeah.
me, one of my cleaners actually is now my assistant. She really did well, and she's just like, I want to do more, like I want to get involved more. So she's, we promoted her to my assistant. Now she just basically helps me with everything. So you have to start somewhere, and that could be the entryway to get in to do this. So I'm glad that you did that.
You know, like Sasha and Brittany, right?
I do.
I think their cleaner became their assistant as well.
Oh, really?
Like she's literally their assistant now. Yep. That's so ironic. I'm like, that's the new thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I've been in corporate business my whole life. So for 17 years I worked in the corporate industry, and I always liked companies that would bring people up that were doing well. Like some of my best, because I was in sales, for the last 17 years,
Yeah.
some of my best employees were receptionists. I could see that they had the ability and they were able to talk and communicate with people. And I'm like, let's bring them in. I'll train them and we'll get them going. And now, even to this day, some of those people that I picked up that were just receptionists are some of the best sales reps that we had ever for the companies that I work with.
I love
So
that.
yeah, bringing people up from within is the way to go, like in my opinion personally. And there's nothing wrong with VAs or all that stuff. I think they're great to help on the back end. But if you have somebody in house, like I know Rafa's got a whole system on. Dude, I got to pick your brain about that system one of these days, because I got to figure out how he's got a whole internal system in house locally that just like each person does their own thing. Yeah, he probably has like pie charts on all these people and flow charts. No, I bet you have all that
Right.
too,
No, literally.
huh?
I mean, but when you
No,
have
I
such
don't.
you have a large amount of units, you kind of have to. It's like everybody got to be ready for anything.
Yeah.
Everybody.
It was a long process to build, but now that it's built, it's very simple for me. I just implement and people just do. Plus, I empower my people to be able to figure things out on themselves and make mistakes and learn from the mistakes. That's the fastest way they learn. If they screw something up, it costs me big, but I know for a fact that that person will never make that mistake again. Rather than getting rid of that person and having someone else make the same mistake and stuff like that. So, with me, yeah, I mean, I have a pretty good built out system. The whole thing's implemented from virtual assistants to people on the ground to communications to everything else. I don't, even with third party companies, right? I don't have any actual employees, but my entire system works all in flow with everybody from person to person based on what their task is or what their job is within our system that we have built out. Um, yeah, I mean, it's just the way I run my business. Everybody does it differently.
Yeah.
I don't want to touch, like, I really don't touch any of it anymore unless it's absolutely like crucial for me to come in and go over something. Like we just had an issue the other day where a guest canceled, and when a guest cancels, it doesn't show on, we use turnover B&B, and it doesn't show on turnover B&B that there's a checkout. It just removes it completely, so it disappears off the calendar. My VAs know that they need to let somebody know immediately when that happens, but they didn't know that we need to block out the calendar right away, right? And so I'm teaching some guys in the area, and I brought them to that unit because that's how I was open, and I walk in and it was dirty, and I'm like, hey, why is this unit dirty? There's nobody on the calendar. Well, I didn't, because I'm no longer involved in that aspect of things. I'm over here yelling at my VA, and she's like, Rafa, they just canceled an hour ago. And I'm like, oh, sorry. Like, I'll be quiet here. But it was one of those things where I'm like, okay, but you know what? Even though they just canceled an hour ago, I just checked and the calendar's still open. Somebody could have booked within that hour. There's no cleaner here. We're not going to get a cleaner here in the next hour. They're not going to clean until tomorrow because it was already like 4 p.m. That calendar needs to be blocked immediately. So from now on, we implemented a new system. From now on, anytime somebody cancels a booking during the mid-stay, not prior or after, right? Mid-stay. When they cancel a booking mid-stay and they check out early, that calendar needs to get blocked for the night unless we can get a cleaner scheduled immediately.
Yeah.
Otherwise, someone's going to walk in. And so, it's a work in progress, but it's one of those things where like we solve these little issues as we go. And that's part of it. I don't have anybody that's like, I'm in the hunt right now. I'm going to hire an executive assistant, and I'm going to hire a full-time salesperson for acquisitions. So those are the two things that I'm actually going to onboard directly with the business. But otherwise, it's all contractors and people that work in sync with each other. So, anyway, I went on a tangent there, but that's kind of how it goes.
No, you know what? Speaking of business stuff right now, so like Kira, you got a bunch of stuff going on, like, and I've seen you post before, like, this is my team. Like, what is that? What does your team look like now since, you started to now? And then, let's talk about some of your coaching. We'll dive into a little bit more of the Airbnb stuff, but I want to know what you're doing now, like what your team looks like and how it's changed from the beginning. How because you're also big on social media too. You have a nice presence in YouTube. We haven't even talked about your 80,000 views off
Right.
of one video on YouTube. So let's talk about your team and how that looks and how you're able to probably minimize your time with dealing with the day-to-day operational stuff and really focus on the things that you're uniquely qualified to do.
Oh yeah. So it's so crazy because I feel like my team goes through cycles. Like things are always changing. I share office with my social media manager, and we've been working together for like 2 years. So she's been here. She's my day one. I love her. Her name is Carla. But nonetheless, I started off with just Carla because what happened was when I started coaching right before we first met, Jesse, like September, I got a coach because I knew I wanted to help people. Like again, I felt like I had all this knowledge and I knew how to get booked. I wanted to help people get booked who weren't getting booked. I didn't always teach people how to get the yes and how to start, but I had this coach and I couldn't figure anything out. Like it was hard. It was the first time I was like in real business, like, helping other, like, I don't know. So I hired Carla as my VA. And then I think I just grew from there. So then I hired, I think 4 months later, I hired 2 virtual assistants. One of them, she's still with me to this day. Now she's my executive assistant, and she basically is a team lead. So she handles all the other VAs we have. But I've had on like personal assistants, interns, just like the whole 9 yards. But right now for the team, because again, it goes in cycles and it just depends on what cycle you are in your business. Right now I have Carla. She's still my social media manager. She still helps me with Instagram. But I also have a coach who coaches me, the same coach I used to use when I first started. She's now my coach, like full time now, business coach. And then I have my team. So for the day-to-day operations for Airbnb, what used to happen is I used to have my intern and my assistant kind of handle all of the Airbnb messaging and stuff. But what happened was I would get stressed out because they work 9 to 5, but from 5 to 9, I was, making sure my phone was on ring and like that. I would hear when things happen. And it got really like, it was just stressful for me because I have so many other things to worry about. So what I did is I taught my team of VAs how to do all of that, how to message. They all kind of have their own jobs. So every person, we have someone working 24/7. So if a guest gets locked out, they have access to the lock system. If they have to call someone physically, they're calling the intern and say, hey, can you go open the door? So it's like, I just, like you said, I don't have time for everything anymore. And I realized that you can't do it without a team. There's a lot of people who teach it on the internet, like, oh, you can do this without a team. You don't need a team. Yeah, that's a lie. You definitely need help. When you're growing, if you want to grow, you're going to need help. Like,
no doubt.
Yeah, 100%.
You have to. Mm-hmm.
No
And Rafa, how you were talking about the cleaners thing. So it's so funny because at one point, my VA, who's now my executive assistant, at one point, when she does our cleaning schedule, so she updates my mom daily on the cleaning schedule. But it got to a point where her internet wasn't working well. So every time a guest would extend, my mom wouldn't know. So my mom would walk in on guests. But we have a system now where that will not happen, like ever. Like it won't ever happen again. So I feel you. I feel your sentiments on that.
Yeah. I have so many stories. It's funny. I have so many stories of people walking in on guests, like over time, like cleaners show up to the wrong apartment in an accident, or cleaners didn't know that they extended, or it's funny that you brought that up. But it's good. You're implementing a system to fix it. So that's what it's about, right? You got to get better and you got to grow and you got to implement things to make sure that situations don't happen. And you're 100% correct when you're saying, I hate when people are out there telling people, yeah, you don't need anybody around. You can build this whole system by yourself. And it's like, dude, look, you can if you have maybe one. I went to 18 before I actually built the system, right? But it was such a pain answering messages, dealing with guests, running around, picking up linens. I don't do anything anymore. It costs me more money, but there's that exchange, right? The value of time. I'd rather pay somebody who knows what they're doing over how I'm going to do it, right? And it's going to cost me money, but it's going to save me my time. I don't get my 24 hours back, but the $1,000 that I'm paying, I can make them back next month. You know what I
Yep.
mean? So
Yep. And you can grow. Like you have time to, like you said, you're going to get like a sales associate and like other, like you're going to hire more people. If you were working daily, you wouldn't have that luxury.
yep.
Well, you probably would, but like it would be harder. It would be
Yeah,
a
no,
lot.
for sure.
I'd be working 15 hours a day.
No, literally.
Yeah, no, dude. I mean, this is a 24-hour business that we're in. You
Yeah.
know, there's
Yeah.
no. Hey, I clocked out at 5. Don't bother me till tomorrow. They're gonna be like, dude, what? No. So you
Yeah.
definitely need a team, at least a customer service team, to help you with that. I'm so disorganized right now. It's not even funny. Like I'll miss phone calls sometimes because like I get so distracted working on stuff, which is why I'm hiring an executive assistant. Like I'm not good at paperwork. I'm not good at filing documents. Like I'm not good at staying organized. I need somebody to
Yeah.
be like, yo, Rafa, it's this time. Go do this. Hey, Rafa, you got to do these documents. Go do
Yep.
that.
It's funny. That's exactly what my assistants do. So since we have someone on every shift, they literally message me on Slack all day. Hey, Kierra, you have this meeting happening in 10 minutes. Make sure you're getting ready for it. Like we're on the same wavelength. That's literally my problem. That was my problem and why I hired a team 24/7 because I was missing stuff. I was late. So what happens is they remind me 10 minutes before so I don't miss the meeting. I almost missed this meeting. I'm not going to lie, but because the Slack message, I was working so hard and they're like, hey, Kierra, you have a meeting. I'm like, oh, shoot, show do. So
Yeah.
I feel you on that.
Yeah, that's
Entrepreneurship.
awesome.
Yeah, what you have going on is it's a lot, and I think that a lot of times people don't realize, especially in the coaching business. Like I could tell you now that I started coaching not too long ago, but that stuff on the back end takes so much freaking time, and people don't realize that. Like they don't
I don't
understand
know.
how if you're putting your own slides together, if you're putting even if you have a team together to do that, like that stuff is not you won't do it in one day. Like it just doesn't work like that. It takes months and months and months of preparation, even for another class that you're going to be starting a live class. That's a whole set of another set of preparation. It's not just like plug and play. And I think a lot of times people
Man,
don't realize that.
man, it is a lot. Me and Carla were talking about that the other day. Like, people see the tip of the iceberg on Instagram, but if they knew what went on behind the scenes, like it's months of preparation for like
Yeah.
one day.
Right.
So yeah, but it's so worth it. It's so worth
Yeah.
it.
It was funny because I did a 5-day training class, right? Remember, I told Jesse about it. Only a couple people knew about it, but I did a 5-day training class, and I did it like because people were messaging me on Instagram, hey, can you teach me when I was building out those 16 units? And I'm like, well, I'll do this. And I ended up doing a 5-day training class. And at the end of it, I was like, oh my God, that was so exhausting. I was so drained. I mean, I hope I gave value worth it from the feedback I got. Everybody was very happy, but I went into such details to the point where my brain was like digging deep inside, where I was like, at the end of it, I was like, I just want to go to sleep because it
Yeah.
was
You knock
so
out.
draining. Yeah.
Coaching is draining.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, let's talk about that then. Let's talk about how does your coaching program look?
So again, I didn't always teach people how to get the yes. I just wanted to help people get booked. But when I saw that there were a lot of scammers out here and people getting scammed
Oh
and
yeah.
evicted, and we were having a real epidemic in the Black community. So I had to sit down and say, okay, how can I help people? And it's funny. I told myself I would never help people get the yes because I know it's a mindset thing that they have to get over. That it was hard for me to get over, but now here I am helping people do that. But for the coaching setup, I've done it all. I've done one-on-one, I've done group, I've done passive, self-paced. Like I've literally done it all. And I feel like if anyone is wanting to be a coach, I always tell people start with one-on-one, see how you like it, see what people say, figure out what people know and what they don't, and then do a group round where you can kind of do the same thing so you can do a course. I always tell people though, it's hard to do it backwards because if you're just doing a course, you don't know what people feel like, oh, I already know this, or oh, this is the real questions we have. You can, but it's just so much easier when you can know one-on-one what people need and then move on and then move on. But the coaching has been very game changing. Yeah, it's been great. It's been great. My first year, I made like, I'm not even gonna lie to you, I think I made over like, I made multiple six figures with the coaching, but thankfully for Airbnb, we make the same thing. So, yeah, it's just been great. I love coaching. I really do.
So you're balling now.
It's awesome.
And investing too. We're cash poor,
Reinvesting.
but we're asset rich.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And that's the way it should be. And that's what you have to do to build your business.
yeah, yeah.
You got a team, you got to pay them. You know what I mean? You got to
Mm-hmm.
reset that money. Rafa's doing the same thing, but yeah, sorry to cut you, Rafa. I want to continue on this coaching thing. When you teach people like that and you're able to, get these large amounts of money, like you have to be able to reinvest it. Like you can't sit on it, and you can't, you got to make sure you put it to work with something. And I think like with what you're doing, you have a whole team behind you. So you're able to continue to grow your business based off of everything that you're bringing on, all the new people you're coming on that are taking things off your plate, that are making your job easier for you to focus on coaching. So,
well, to get to that point too, though, you got to grow. Being an entrepreneur and being able to be a coach, you have to have a different type of mindset, right? You know
Yeah.
better than to take all that money and go and blow it at the bar on the weekends. You know about investing. You know about getting better. You know about growing. And look, I charged for this 5-day training. I'd never have done coaching before, but I did it. And all that money that I made off of it, I literally threw it back into coaching for myself.
Period.
So I'm learning more to get better, to do more. In turn, I
Right.
can offer it to more people in the future if I so choose to, or at least I can grow as a person and just be a better human around the people in my circle to begin with, right? So it really, there was two things before I wanted to touch on that you said. One of them was you weren't doing the how to teach people yes because it's a mindset thing, and it really is. Coaching is teaching people how to change their mindset over anything else. I can give you a script, I can give you a curriculum, but you're not going to get anywhere unless you flip that switch in your head on how to overcome rejection and how to overcome the fear of doing something new and how to get past the thought that you might have to end up doing something different than where you originally started. Like there's all kinds of different barriers that people got to get over. And I feel like that's what you're really coaching on, over giving. Like I had people asking me, hey, what's your script? And I'm like, well, here it is. It's in writing. Use it. But if you don't get over the hump of thinking, hey, when I take this, I have to create it myself and I have to figure out how to answer different questions and I have to get over the rejection part and I have to wake up every morning and do something and push myself alone. And it's just so much stuff, right? That's where the real coaching comes in. But I'm actually curious about something here, Kierra, where you said you weren't teaching people to get the yes, but you were teaching people how to get booked. Can we go into a little bit of detail about that? What is it that you do to get people to get booked differently, like as part of your coaching course? Would you mind talking about that for a second?
Oh yeah. So the thing is, I feel like so the thing is, like, for me, I just understand Airbnb. It was really gifted. It's really a gift. I feel like it's something that I can't, you know that saying, don't keep your gifts to yourself, spread them if you were given to them. So when I first started, there were like listings on Airbnb that were on Airbnb for years, but we made it on the first page in our city, third listing down. We actually charged like $70 a night when we first started. But the thing is, I realized we were just getting bad guests, and like, I don't know, I just didn't like it. So after 3 stays, we're like, let's just try to increase the prices to what our neighbors are doing. Because I used Wheelhouse at the time, but Wheelhouse was way underpricing us. So I increased it to like 170 to 220. We were booked out like a night. It was amazing on Airbnb. We were like 99% occupancy like every single month in Virginia. And just like I just feel like I knew how to decorate. We always got compliment. Like, I had 5 stars across the board, and I just really felt like I understood what people wanted, what they needed, how to respond to guests. Like, I truly feel like I was gifted with that too. I feel like I'm really good when it comes to responding to guests. Like,
customer
it's just
service.
something that's, it just comes to me. So I just really wanted to help people, look at, okay, how does the Airbnb SEO work? How can you make sure you're putting words in your listing to make sure you're getting views? Do you know that, when you first list, that you're at the top on the first page for some people and you can stay there? Like, just those little things that I was figuring out, I was helping people do and getting them booked versus them not being booked because they didn't know why. And then also like zip code research. So how do you use AirDNA? Why aren't you making money? Should you go ahead and end your lease and when it's time, so you can move to an area that's going to make you money? Just all those little things definitely played a piece. But I love this stuff. I really do. I really do.
That's awesome. So do you feel like you could take an underperforming property and turn it into a performing property?
Always. Always.
Yeah. Yeah. So like what are two big suggestions if somebody comes to you right now and like, Kierra, I have an underperforming property. I don't know what to do. I'm about to end my lease. Like, what are two things that you would give as a tip to, like, revamp it or redo it or get, be able to make a little bit more money from it or break even? Because a lot of people are actually in the negative with their properties.
Mm-hmm. There's two things, and I don't think everyone would agree with me. The first thing is actually extend your lease. Because if you have broken even, but you're still profiting maybe like $200-$300 a month, but it's not what you wanted it to, and you're still breaking even on your furniture, if you extend for another year, at least that gives you the opportunity to break even some more, depending on how much you're breaking even, right? And making and profiting. But also the second thing is, I would advise for people to, usually those people who are underperforming, they took bad pictures or they went with someone who's not a real estate photographer and have really bad pictures. I'm like, how do y'all spend $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 to furnish a unit, but you can't pay $100 for a photographer? It doesn't make sense to me. It does not make it make sense. So I always tell them, like, just go get you a professional photographer. If you don't have the money for it, go rent you a camera off of Fat Llama. It's a site you can rent a camera for a day and take your own pictures, watch some YouTube videos on how to use that specific camera. That's what I did, and now our pictures look great. And the pictures is like the number one thing. And then also ordering your pictures. It's so funny because I felt like me figuring out how to order pictures was just like, easy. But one of my clients, I was editing her units, and she was like, Kierra, do you realize like this is a gift? Like not everyone can look at pictures and know what to go where. And I'm like, I don't think so. I feel like it's really just a flow. I think anyone can learn the flow. So the flow is just making sure your first 5 photos are different rooms, because if they're different, when people are scrolling through Airbnb, at least when they're scrolling through, they're not seeing 5 or 6 pictures of the living room. They're going to get bored and scroll away. But if you show your living room, your bathroom, your kitchen, like the nice stuff, they're going to click on it. And then the best part about it is people are always like, oh, but what if my place is too expensive? When I'm ready to go on a trip, and if I see a resort I like and it's really expensive, I'm going to find a way to make that resort happen. And that's exactly what your ideal guest is doing. So like making your first picture the best one. The first 5 pictures need to be different. And then making sure it's in order, like after the 5th picture, like just all those little things. It's just psychology. Psychology. That's my top tip. Take a psychology class, read a psychology book, Psychology of Sales, because that's what's going to get you the sales in any business.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I'm a big believer on this. I mean, How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie. For those of you, if you guys can pick up a chance to pick up that book and read it. Rafa, have you read that yet?
Like 7 times.
All right, good. I was gonna mail it to you.
I like it because my birthday's in the book. He was like, if you remember someone's birthday, November 24th, I'm like, that's my birthday. And I fell in love with the book.
Yeah, that's a great book. It's one of the books I read every year without fail. I always read it every year.
Yeah. It's so good. If you make things about other people and you provide a true authenticity when it comes to actually caring about what they're doing, people recognize that and they'll see that and they will take light to that and they will want to use you more and more. So I recommend that book for everybody. So that's so cool. So right now, is most of your business like who's your ideal customers right now? What does that look like?
So for Airbnb, my ideal customer, that's another thing. I feel like I'm really good at just decorating, but our ideal customer, they're looking for something that's simple. Like all of our units, we decorate with books because it's cheap. Well, we go to Goodwill because Goodwill books are like $1. And they're brand spanking new. So we decorate with books, and people who are coming to our units, they're not looking to party. They're really just looking to chill, or they're just going out of town and they need somewhere to out on the town, and they just need somewhere to sleep and crash. So our audience is great. We get a lot of traveling workers. We get a lot of corporate travelers. We are actually in connection with this one restaurant in Houston. Well, they have 3. And so for 2 of our units, they're always booked with their clients. That's for the Airbnb business. So I would say for Airbnb, it's just like people who are in and out. They just trying to sleep, and that's it. And then for coaching, I would say my ideal audience is Black females who feel like, they are, because I was in that position, but they feel like when they go to work, it's like, all right, is this tension real? Is it because I'm the only Black person in the room? Like, why am I being treated like this? But my goal is to really give them an opportunity to show them that ownership is the key. But if you need to get started with arbitrage, this is how you start, because you want to be able to go into work and say, all right, talk to me like you want to today, because I can quit. I have income. That's kind of my goal, is to make sure they have something to back them up so that they're not feeling pressure to be this person they don't want to be and not themselves when they're at work, if that makes sense.
I think it totally does. And I think it's also something that's not really spoken about very much.
It won't be.
Yeah, it's something that's not talked about. And I don't want to turn this into a program, but anybody of color has had something in their life that has happened that most people won't understand because they've never actually been through it. And that workforce feeling it's really not a pleasant feeling, especially if it happens on a regular basis.
I cried.
So
I came home crying like 3 times a week when I was in my internship. Like I hated it. I hated it.
yeah, yeah. It sucks. And that's the thing that about short-term rentals is, and Ruff and I, this is how we started the show and we called it the big break, is because I was always in business and I never realized about actually, being an entrepreneur. I never realized about actually owning a business. And when you get into the short-term rental space, you realize really quickly that I can turn this into actual business where I can sustain a lifestyle that I want to have and grow it. And literally it's a very easy way to get in. Airbnb is pretty easy. I can arbitrage unit, start off that way with, not a crazy amount of money, and you could build an actual sustainable business off of it. So for me, that was like my big break, was getting my first short-term rental and really opening up and realizing that you could create a legitimate business based off of it. I never had the idea of I always knew that people that were super successful had their own businesses. I just didn't know how to do it. And I think there's two things that people typically don't do. And, they want to be millionaires, they could, or they're making 40, 50,000 a year. First, they don't think they can make that amount of money. And the second, they don't know how to do it. You know what I mean? And that's where you start to realize, when you start doing something like, shit, I can actually create something and build a legitimate business off of this. And that's why coaches, I feel, are so important, because you teach, and even Rafa, you guys now, and me, like I'll go to mentorships and, take Tony Robbins courses or, business professional courses to learn more. And that's what you have to do in order to continue to grow in whatever it is you're doing. You have to get that
Yeah.
next level mindset.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you know what it was, Jesse? It's you grew as a person, you shifted your mind, and your mindset shifted from I don't want to be an employee to I want to be the owner. I still remember when you told me you quit your job, how excited you were, and
Yeah, I was.
how big of a step that was for you. No, it's true. I mean, we talk about that all the time because
Yeah.
I've seen you grown over the past, we've known each other for a year now,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
we talk almost every single day now, and I see you grow every single day. And it to me, it's like it's awesome to see, because like I always want to see the people around me get better. And I've noticed it as from when we started talking to where you're at now, it's a night and day difference. It really is. So,
Yeah. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. You're gonna make me start crying, bro.
I know. I'm like,
all I'm saying is I'm proud of you, bro. All right. I'm proud of you, man.
God.
All right. You're doing good. And I'm happy for
I'm
your
giving you a hug right
success.
now, buddy. This is me hugging you. Okay.
Air hug, air hug.
Virtual hug.
So
Virtual
no,
hug.
yeah, no, I'm dead serious, man. This is why we started the show, and that's what it's about, right? Bringing people on like this and talking about this stuff and helping people grow and get to a different level of where they are, where they began, and that's
Yeah.
what we're trying to get to, right? Kierra, this has been awesome. I want to ask you our questions here that we ask every single person we bring on, right? And it's being that this is the Big Break Show. We want to know, what was your big break? And it doesn't have to be in business. It doesn't have to be in short-term rentals. It can be in life. It can be personal. It can be whatever. But what was that one thing that you're like, well, if it wasn't for this, I wouldn't have gone to here? What was your big break?
This one just came to me as we're talking, and I'm trying not to get emotional, right? So my cousin, I was I want to say I was was I a senior or junior? I think I was a senior in college. November 2018, she was killed. I was a senior, and it was big for me because we grew up together, same age and everything, and I think that really woke me up, like, all right, Kierra. Well, first I was kind of like, all right, God, like, what happened? Why did you do this? Like, my cousin was so young; she had her whole life to live. Like, please help me understand, why did you take my cousin away? And that kind of forced me down a path of like Google, like, all right, where's my cousin? Is she okay? Like, just me, it was going through the grief, and I feel like if that had not happened, I would not be here today. I wouldn't, because just I started my spiritual journey when she died. I really feel like she's my guardian angel and she's there with me. But, you know, that was my big break. And because of that, I stood up for myself in work. And if it wasn't for her, she's always in the back of my mind. I'm always thinking about her, and that was my big break.
That's awesome, Kierra. Thank you for sharing that. Appreciate that, because that's a big deal, So
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. And there's a saying that I heard: things happen for you, not to you.
Yeah.
Like if there's a negative thing that happens in your life, and I've always talked about this before, any diversity that we have in our lives, or adversity, that's where we catapult ourselves. Like me losing my dad, big, huge accelerator in my life. So it's like that negative thing that happens to you propels you. It makes you better. It really does. And it's hard to get past those things and to eventually move along. But once you start understanding that things happen for you, it's a totally different mindset.
It
But
changes you.
yeah, I'm sorry to hear about
It
your
really
cousin.
changed me. I just I feel like her and my great grandmother raised me for a bit in my life too when I was little. Just them. I just know that they're there guiding me, saying, all right, Kierra, you got this. This is what's next. This is what we're going to do. You need to take care of yourself. You need to stand up for yourself. You're still young. So, like, let's do what we have to do. Stop living every day like you have tomorrow. Live every day like it's your last. And that really was like the big break for me. And then, getting or I guess also working in corporate was a big break too. But I think the biggest one was my cousin. But working in corporate really woke me up as well. So, that's a whole other topic, but yeah.
Well, we're glad you're woke now.
Yeah. Woke, hashtag woke.
Hashtag woke. So one more thing too. I love that answer to that, and we always get different answers, and that was one that's definitely going to stand out.
This is a really good one.
So another, yeah, totally. So another question we ask. So from listening today, anybody listening to this, what could be a piece of advice, an actionable step that somebody could do right now from just listening to this episode with you? Something they can do to get started, or something they can do just to move forward with short-term rentals or anything in general?
I would say the first. That's a good question because there's so many steps. I'm trying to think like back to day one. What I recommend you doing. I don't care how shy you are. I don't care how scared you are. You need to reach out to one of your favorite creators and just say, "Hey, I really appreciate what you're doing. Is there any way I could intern for you or whatever the case may be?" Because you never know who you could be a help to, but also you'd be surprised on how many people reach out if you just let them know that you really do appreciate what they're doing and let them know what you've learned from them. Be of value to them before you ask for anything. But if you tell them exactly why you're doing it, they'll help you. Well, not everyone, but like most of us will help you. We'll work with you.
Yeah, I totally agree. Or they'll pass you off to their assistant to take notes and then eventually get you over to where they need to go.
Yeah, you know what? I want to add to that too, Kierra, because it's really good because I get people all the time, like literally all the time, who ask me if I can help them. But it's like anybody who's going to ask this, I want to add a little bit to it because come with value and come with a purpose of wanting to help that person as well, right? Don't come with the idea that, hey, we're going to want to offer our time 100% of the time to help you just because you reached out.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people will be like, yo, I can't sit here and help you out just because I'll do it out of the kindness of my heart to help someone. But when you go and ask somebody, bring value to that person, right? For example, your assistant came and said, hey, I'll work for free for you and I'll do whatever you want me to do, right? That's a big deal. Like, well, no, I'm still going to pay you, but I appreciate you bringing that to me. It just kind of shows me the type of person that you are. But don't be that person that says, hey, I see what you're doing. Is it cool if I come and learn from you for the next couple of days and like intern and just kind of like watch you?
Yeah.
What? You know what I mean?
Well, who are you? You my op? Like,
yeah.
No, seriously.
So.
Yeah, that's awesome. Kierra, where can people find you? Coach for the Host on the IG. Let us know what you got going on or where people can catch you at.
Y'all can catch me on Coach for the Host on Instagram. That's where I hang out the most. Also YouTube. I'm trying to hang out as much as I can on YouTube. If you need to ask a question or something, definitely go to forthehost.com and go to like the contact form and ask your question there. I want to help as many people as possible, but also like thank you guys for having this platform because I wouldn't be able to even speak if it weren't for you guys. So I thank you guys as well. So y'all make sure y'all follow the big break, okay? And support. But nonetheless, that's where you can find me Instagram. I'm always there. I will be kind of merging into, so I don't know if y'all know this. I haven't mentioned on Instagram yet that I have a house. Like no one knows this. So as soon as the house is done though, I think by the time this show is out, the house should be finished, but like everyone will finally know, November to now, like what happened in all those months and why I was
where your dollars are going.
Real estate, you gotta be ready. You gotta have cash. I learned that really quickly. You gotta have cash.
Yeah, you do.
Yep.
Yeah, you do. Well, there you go, folks. Kierra making things happen. She's out here being a boss, making a bunch of cash flow and reinvesting it back into her business, buying her own properties now, coaching other people. So Kierra, we're super pumped. And anybody listening to this or watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe to our page. We are super thankful that you guys are here. Spotify, make sure that you like and add a comment on there too. We will, that helps us with the algorithm and getting things going, but we appreciate everybody being here. Kierra, you're awesome. Coach for the Host, Instagram. Thank you, everybody. Thanks again. I appreciate it.
Can I add one more thing?
Go for it.
Yes.
So for anyone listening or watching, if this was helpful for you, think about where you were 6 months ago or even a year ago. And, if this was helpful for you, think about that person you could be helping by leaving a review. So please, if you can, leave a review for them for the big break, like the video, because it will help the next person. Just imagine yourself how you were a couple of months ago or a couple of years ago and remember that person. So leave your honest opinion. So
I like it.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. We appreciate it. I don't think people realize how important it is to leave those little notes. It really is.
Mm-hmm.
So perfect. Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate it, Kierra. You're awesome. I look forward to what you have going on. Appreciate it, y'all.
Okay, bye.